Display devices. When we use display devices to have multiple displays, Windows 2000 supports either this version, where we can have display number 1 and display number 2, or you can create a virtual desktop which would have a seamless transition from the mouse from one desktop to the other, and you'd be able to kind of combine both of them, so you can use a whole bunch of those different ones. When you're setting up the configuration for it, start setting control panel. Just move this in so we can see it. Click the display. Go to the settings tab, and if we had the second, and from here if we had more than one monitor set up, we'd be able to configure the settings for that. We can reach the display properties also by going to the main screen and just right clicking at properties, and we would end up with the same display properties as we did through the control panel. Okay, and right now we're going to talk about some keyboard functions and keyboard accessibility. So we're going to go to the Start button, Settings, Control Panel. Open that up, open up the accessibility options. Here we've got an option for keyboard, for sound, display, mouse, and general. So the first one is sticky keys, and we're able to allow that by checking it off here, or unchecking it. The settings, we're able to apply a shortcut for it. There's different options that we're allowed to do. Press modifier key twice to lock, turn sticky keys off if two keys are pressed at once. So it's just the different settings that we're allowed to have for sticky keys. Essentially what the sticky keys is that when you press a modifier key such as Shift, Control, or Alt, the key can be remained down until you press the second key after that. So it's like pressing Control and it remains in effect until until the non-modifier key is pressed. Second feature here is filter keys, and what we have for filter keys, we've got some settings here again. Filter keys, generally it allows you to ignore brief and repeated keystrokes. We can change the settings here for the filter key, and here we've got for repeat keys, and we can slow keys. As you can see, there's a test area here. I'm just going to try pressing a letter A. I've got it on long right now, so I have to hold the key down for 2 seconds in order for it to display. Even have to delete it, I have to hold it down for 2 seconds. Or I can bring it to short, where it's much faster. I can display the key that I'm being pressed. Whatever is the setting that you want to keep it at. So OK, and I'm just going to get out of that. The third one is toggle keys, and toggle keys will emit a sound or a tone when pressing such things as cap locks, num locks, and scroll lock. And we've got some settings we can use here too. The only one that we have is to hold down the num lock for 5 seconds, and this is the shortcut that we have for toggle keys. Under sound, we've got sound sensitivity, and basically when you want the computer to generate a warning when the system makes a sound, you would check this off. So I've just checked it off here. Maybe we'll see an example of it. Use show sounds to tell your programs to display captions for the speech and sounds they display. So we can do that too, and if there's any sounds that's going to be displayed, we're going to see an example. For display, we have an option for high contrast. We would check this off if we want Windows to use colors and fonts designed for easy reading. Our settings here are white on black, black on white, and custom colors we can use. And we also have a shortcut to implement it. So we could try just setting that here. And we can see what happens when we've checked this off. Everything's kind of gone, and we're able to see the contrast much better. I'm just going to uncheck that and go back to the normal mode. Under mouse, we've got for the mouse key, and this is if we want to control the pointer with the numeric keypad on your keyboard. We've got some settings here that we can configure the system. And then in general, we've got a few other features here. These are for the accessibility features. Here you can turn off accessibility feature if it's idle for a while. There's notifications, there's serial key devices, and some administrative options. Apply all settings on login desktop, apply all settings to default for new users. So this is accessibility options. Just going to close this down. We're going to talk about the 5 different kinds of volume sets that are available. Originally we had a basic disk, and we took the basic disk, we converted into a dynamic disk in the convergence process that I showed you earlier. And this is just simply, it's turned into a simple volume. And that's all it is after you've converted it. Okay, the second one is spanned volumes. Essentially it's a simple disk and it's extended to another disk. So we have our basic one that we created earlier, or we can just circle this one. This would have been the first one that we created, disk number 1, and we've extended it to 2 other disks, and this has created our spanned volume this way. So they would all be connected. We can connect either to 1 other disk all the way up to 32 other disks. Windows 2000 gives us that option. The third one is mirrored volumes, which provides fault tolerance volume duplicating data on 2 physical disks, always located on different disks. So here we have the data coming in. It sends 1 copy to physical disk number 1 and 1 copy to physical disk number 2. This is coming in from the outside source. And what happens when we're saving the data, if one of the systems goes down, we're able, let's say physical disk number 1 goes down, we're still able to use the data off of physical disk number 2. It's essentially like there was a mirror in the middle here that was creating the exact duplicate of physical disk number 1 and physical disk number 2. So let's say you have three disks that are mirrored, you'd actually have 6 physical disks in total. You can't just use 1 physical disk for the mirroring process because you won't be able to do it properly. You can't mirror 1 physical disk.